She watched her daughter burn to death inside a locked house.
More than 1,000 people were killed.
And exactly 14 days later, she watched her second daughter take her last breath in a hospital bed.
This is Kibera.
Alilia kabisa na moto ilikuwa mingi wakati nimemweka chini.
Both children, 2 weeks apart, gone.
Madudu zinatoka kwa kichwa yangu zinatembea.
But that is not the most painful part of this story, because what happened before those 14 days is almost impossible to believe.
It is playing out the same way.
Along ethnic and political lines. More than 1,000 people were killed.
And the most devastating part of this story, the part that will stay with you long after this video ends, is that losing her children was not even the worst thing that ever happened to Florence. Stay with us, because what came before those 2 weeks will completely change how you see struggle, survival, and what a human being can actually endure. Florence was born into a life that never gave her a single soft landing. Her father died when she was still too young to fully understand death, only old enough to feel the emptiness it left behind. Her mother loved her children the way desperate people love what they cannot hold on to, with everything, and yet not enough to save them from hardship. After the funeral, everything collapsed. Money disappeared, food disappeared, and 1 week at a time, normal life disappeared too. The market opened only once a week. On the 6 days it didn't, Florence's family simply did not eat. She was 8 years old when she started knocking on strangers' doors asking for work. 8. Not the kind of errands children do for pocket money and stories, but the kind of desperate knocking that only comes from real hunger. Adults turned her away. Some gave her small tasks. She did everything without complaint, because a child who knows hunger does not argue with hard work. School ended, not gradually, but suddenly. There was no money for fees, and Florence's childhood moved from classroom to street without ceremony, without warning, without anyone able to stop it. By the time she was 10, her mother sent her away. What came next is difficult to hear, but it is what Florence lived. The people she was sent to work for did not treat her like a child. They did not treat her like a person. They locked her up. They beat her with sticks so severely that the marks covered her body, not bruises that fade, but wounds etched into her skin like permanent records of violence. She ran back to her mother and showed her what had been done to her. Her mother hit her and sent her back. She ran away again and sat on the road crying until a stranger stopped and offered to take her somewhere safe.
Amealimikuta kama nimesimama ninalilia hapo, akaniuliza msichana ni nini, nikamweleza ile shida mimi niko nayo, akaniambia.
But before that could happen, her aunt appeared and pulled her away.
Ule aunti yangu alimwambia hawezi enda na mimi juu hanijui, amjui.
She went to live with her aunt instead. It should have been rescue, it wasn't. Every morning, Florence was pushed out of the house before sunrise with no destination and one instruction: come back with money. She was a child walking the city alone, finding whatever work she could, washing dishes at food stalls for 20 cents, chopping vegetables, scrubbing pots. 20 cents was the difference between eating and not eating. They slept on cardboard. When it rained, water poured through the walls and soaked everything they owned. Florence had only 2 sets of clothes. She wore one while the other dried. Sometimes she wore them both wet. There was no mattress, no comfort, no childhood, only survival.
Sikukuwa na ile raha kama naonanga wasichana wenzangu. Niishi maisha ya kuhuzunika, ya kulia.
She was 15 when a young man told her he would take care of her. He was 17. 2 children, both searching for stability in a world that offered none. She moved in with him. She had 2 daughters. And for a brief moment, Florence experienced something that almost resembled peace. Then Kenya caught fire.
Away, the security forces clashed with demonstrators they had blocked from leaving.
The 2007 presidential election split the country in two. When the results were announced and Mwai Kibaki was declared the winner, violence erupted across the nation. Supporters of Raila Odinga took to the streets, convinced the election had been stolen. Within days, the country descended into chaos.
Today, 7 people have been killed in Kasarani constituency.
Over 1,000 people were killed, and hundreds of thousands were displaced. Entire neighborhoods in Nairobi were reduced to ashes.
Kenya's slum city Kibera, groups of demonstrators clashing.
Kibera, where Florence lived with her daughters, became one of the most dangerous places in the country.
Wakati nilimweka chini hapo ndiye aliweza kukufia, sikusikia tena akiweza kupiga nduru.
On the night everything changed, Florence was exhausted, the kind of exhaustion that settles deep into the body. She fell asleep with her children beside her. She woke up to fire. The door had been locked from the outside. Someone had trapped them inside. Flames were already spreading, smoke filling the room. Florence screamed, a sound that neighbors heard, bringing them running. They broke the door and pulled her out along with her older daughter. Her younger daughter was still inside. The fire consumed her completely. There was nothing left to save. Florence herself was badly burned. Her face, hands and body severely injured as she was pulled into the open air and collapsed.
Wakati mimi nimepelekwa kwa hospitali sikuwa naweza inuka, nimefungwa mikono, nimefungwa miguu.
Watu ndio waliweza kuwaokoa na kuwapeleka hospitalini. Walipelekwa hospitalini wapi?
She was rushed to Kenyatta Hospital. Her older daughter, also burned, was admitted beside her. 14 days later, her older daughter stopped breathing. 2 daughters, 14 days, one taken in the fire, the other taken in a hospital bed, while Florence lay beside her, too injured to even hold her as she died. Doctors, many of whom had known Florence before as a worker, treated her without charging her. They operated on her eyes. They treated her burns. They kept her alive. But when she was discharged, she had nothing. No home, no children, no husband. He had fled during the violence and never returned.
Uko nazo kama kwa miguu maybe?
Kwa mapaja huko na kwa matiti juu alipiga kiraka matiti.
Florence left the hospital and lay on the street. Open wounds in the rain, severe burns. She eventually crawled to a nearby Catholic church. People passed by and stared.
Nimejifungwa bandage na iko na usavi donda, inzi zinajaa, niko na leso nimefunga, naenda pale Catholic Adams na hapo watoto wakiniona wanaambia mama akijaribu mama tuchangie huyu amechomeka uliona.
Eventually a woman stopped and helped her. That woman connected her to others who raised money and arranged medical support.
Kufikia hivi ni zaidi ya miaka 10.
Bado ninasikia maumivu, sisikii vizuri, mwili unaniuma kabisa. Siwezi fanya zile kazi nzito, tena siwezi karibiana sana na moto. Bali takataka inachoma huwa inani-affect.
Her mother came to see her once. She looked at Florence, at what remained of her, and walked away without saying a word.
Ukiniangalia hivi, masikio zangu zimeingia ndani ya nini? Ya kufungwa bandage. Na sasa ninasikia vibaya kama hiyo wakati wa baridi, sisikii vizuri hata kama nimelala mahali siwezi amka kabisa.
Florence did not disappear. She refused to. Not because she was not broken. She was broken in ways that never fully heal, but she held on, quietly, relentlessly. She still avoids fire. She still carries what happened in her body, in her movements, in the way she lives. Later she had more children, 2 daughters and a son. The man who fathered her first children never returned, so Florence became both mother and father.
Sasa mimi ndio nashughulikia watoto, kila kitu ni mimi naniangalia kwa nyumba. Mimi hata sina mbele wala nyuma. Kama kuna mwenye tu ameguza na anaweza tu kunisaidia, naomba tu kama anaweza tusaidia, tusaidie. Juu sina kibali.
Work she can do while avoiding fire and heat that her body can no longer endure.
Na sasa ni kazi kama zipi ndio unaweza kufanya ili kujikimu kimaisha?
Kazi kama ya kuuza viatu, kuuza nguo, hiyo haiwezi kuniaffect. Lakini kama hiyo ya kusimama kwa moto hiyo siwezi.
She wakes up every morning. She feeds her children. She keeps going. There is no neat ending to Florence's story because her story is not over. She is still alive, still standing, still carrying everything she has lost and still moving forward because that is the only direction she has ever known.
Na sasa saa hizi umekuwa ukifanya kazi gani hizo ambazo zenye unafanya ili uweze ku sustain life yako na watoto?
Ni tu kazi ya kufyeka, kufua na kulimia tu watu. Kama kuna mtu anataka sabuni naweza mtengenezea, najua kutengeneza sabuni, najua kutengeneza shampoo. Alafu sasa hivi pia niko kwa hiyo training ya kujifunza kushona. Kama kuna mtu anaweza nisaidia ni support na mashine. Sasa nimetoka kwa
If this story stayed with you, if those 14 days, those 2 daughters, that locked burning house still sit in your mind, then do not let this be the last story like this you hear. Subscribe to this channel, share this story, and if it moved you, leave a comment about what part stayed with you the most. Florence lost 2 daughters in 14 days. She is still here, and the least the world can do is remember her name